In the heart of the dense and foreboding forest lay a seemingly serene camping ground known as Whispering Pines. Each summer, adventurous souls from all around gathered there, drawn by the allure of nature's beauty and the promise of escape from their everyday lives. But beneath the tranquil facade of Whispering Pines lay a secret, a hidden killer that refused to die, and it was about to terrorize the unsuspecting campers in a way they could never imagine. It all began decades ago when a series of gruesome murders plagued the campsite. The local authorities were baffled as each victim's body was found mutilated and marked with cryptic symbols carved into their flesh. Panic swept through the community, and the camp was temporarily closed down. Eventually, the case went cold, and the campers returned, thinking the nightmare was over. But the killer, a deranged hermit named Samuel Hargrove, had never truly left Whispering Pines. He had disappeared into the wilderness, where he built an underground lair beneath the forest floor, a network of tunnels and traps. Samuel had become obsessed with the campers, seeing them as intruders in his sanctuary. His hatred had festered over the years, and he swore vengeance. As the summer sun set over Whispering Pines, a group of friends arrived at the campsite, unaware of the sinister history that lurked beneath the trees. They set up their tents, started a campfire, and shared ghost stories under the flickering light. But with each tale they told, the sense of unease grew, as if the very forest was listening. Late at night, when the campfire had dwindled to embers and most campers were asleep, a rustling in the bushes sent shivers down their spines. A twig snapped, and they strained their eyes to see through the darkness. What they couldn't see was Samuel Hargrove, his wild eyes gleaming with madness as he watched them from the shadows. As the hours passed, terror mounted. Strange sounds echoed through the forest, whispers that seemed to come from the very trees themselves. Unnerving symbols appeared etched into the tree trunks, symbols that matched those carved into the long-dead victims. Panic set in as they realized that something was terribly wrong, that the camp had a hidden killer lurking in its depths. The group tried to leave, but Samuel's traps prevented them from escaping. They stumbled upon his underground lair, a horrifying maze of death and decay. It was there that they found the remains of his previous victims, preserved like macabre trophies. The walls of the tunnels were adorned with their terror-stricken faces, forever frozen in agony. Desperation gripped the campers as they realized they were being hunted. Samuel was relentless, his laughter echoing through the tunnels as he picked them off one by one, their terrified screams reverberating through the forest. As dawn broke, the once lively Whispering Pines campsite was left in utter silence, its beauty marred by the horrors of the night. The hidden killer, Samuel Hargrove, had once again escaped into the depths of the forest, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror. The legend of Whispering Pines grew darker, a place where the killer never died, and campers would forever be haunted by the specter of the deranged hermit who continued to roam the woods, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting victims to arrive. Years passed, and the legend of Whispering Pines grew darker with each retelling. The campsite remained abandoned and overgrown, a place of dread that locals warned newcomers to avoid. But like a moth drawn to a flame, some adventurers couldn't resist the allure of the forbidden. They sought the thrill of experiencing the infamous Whispering Pines for themselves, unaware of the malevolent force that still lingered within the forest. A group of college friends decided to spend a night at the campsite, believing the tales of the hidden killer were nothing more than urban legends. Armed with camping gear and youthful bravado, they arrived with the intention of debunking the ghost stories that had haunted their town for years. As they set up their tents and gathered around a campfire, they scoffed at the idea of Samuel Hargrove's return. A mad hermit hiding in the woods for decades? Come on, that's just a scary story. They laughed. Little did they know that their skepticism would soon be shattered. The night was eerily quiet, with no sounds of wildlife or rustling leaves. An unnatural stillness hung in the air, a silence that seemed to mock their disbelief. As the fire crackled and the group exchanged light-hearted banter, one member, Sarah, noticed something odd carved into a nearby tree trunk. It was the same cryptic symbol from the legend of Samuel Hargrove. Unease crept over the group as they examined the symbol, dismissing it as a prank by local teenagers. But their unease deepened when they realized their cell phones had no signal. Isolation settled upon them like a suffocating shroud, and a growing sense of dread clawed at their hearts. As the night wore on, strange whispers drifted through the forest, carrying chilling words that seemed to crawl into their minds. The symbols began appearing on more trees, as if etched by invisible hands. Panic set in, and they decided to leave, but their cars wouldn't start, and their flashlights flickered and died. It was then that they heard it, a haunting, maniacal laughter that seemed to emanate from all around them. Shadows moved in the darkness, and the twisted face of Samuel Hargrove materialized before their eyes, his eyes burning with madness. He had waited patiently, studying his prey, and now he reveled in their terror. The group scattered, trying to escape into the forest, but Samuel's traps and tunnels proved as deadly as ever. One by one, they fell victim to his sadistic games, their screams blending with his grotesque laughter. Each death was more horrifying than the last, and the forest bore witness to the nightmare once again. As the first rays of dawn broke over Whispering Pines, the once optimistic group was reduced to lifeless husks, their blood staining the forest floor. Samuel Hargrove had claimed new victims, and the legend of the hidden killer lived on, a chilling reminder that some horrors never die. Whispering Pines remained a cursed place, a forsaken land where the killer never truly rested, waiting patiently for the next group of adventurers to stumble into his twisted realm, forever terrorizing those who dared to cross its malevolent threshold. The gruesome events at Whispering Pines that fateful night remained shrouded in mystery. The disappearance of the college friends sent shockwaves through the town, and rumors about the hidden killer's return spread like wildfire. Many believed it was just another tragic chapter in the cursed history of the campsite, a place that had become synonymous with death and dread. In the wake of the tragedy, local authorities launched an extensive search for the missing campers, but no trace of them could be found. The forest seemed to have swallowed them whole, leaving behind only the haunting symbols etched into the trees as a grim reminder of their fate. The legend of Whispering Pines grew even darker, becoming a story told in hushed tones around campfires and late-night gatherings. Visitors to the town were warned not to venture into the cursed woods, and the campsite was officially declared off-limits. Years passed, and the memory of that horrific night began to fade. The town's younger generation regarded the tale of Samuel Hargrove and the hidden killer as little more than a spooky story to scare their friends. Some even dared each other to sneak into the abandoned campsite, believing it was all superstition. One summer evening, a group of teenagers decided to test their courage. Armed with flashlights, they crept through the overgrown path leading to Whispering Pines, brushing off warnings from their parents and friends. As they entered the darkened forest, the oppressive atmosphere weighed on them, but bravado and curiosity urged them onward. Their flashlights flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows among the towering trees. The air grew thick with tension, and the teenagers began to feel as though they were being watched. Whispers, faint and chilling, slithered through the underbrush, making them question their decision. Deeper into the woods they ventured until they stumbled upon the remnants of a long-abandoned campsite. Old tents, weathered and torn, stood like ghostly sentinels, and rusted cooking pots lay strewn about. It was as if time had frozen at Whispering Pines, preserving the horrors of the past. As the teenagers explored further, they noticed something that sent shivers down their spines. The same cryptic symbols that had marked the trees in the legends were etched into the ground around them. Fear gripped them, and they realized they had ventured too far into the heart of the cursed forest. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and an unnatural silence fell over the group. Their flashlights dimmed to mere glimmers, casting long, trembling shadows. And then they heard it, the chilling, maniacal laughter that echoed through the trees. Samuel Hargrove, the hidden killer, materialized from the darkness, his eyes burning with madness and malevolence. He had waited patiently, just as he had before, his hunger for terror insatiable. The teenagers scattered, desperately trying to escape the horrors that surrounded them, but Samuel's traps and tunnels remained as deadly as ever. One by one, they fell victim to his sadistic games, their cries for help swallowed by the unforgiving forest. As the first light of dawn broke over Whispering Pines, the forest was once again stained with the blood of the innocent. Samuel Hargrove had claimed new victims, and the legend of the hidden killer lived on, a sinister reminder that some nightmares never truly die. The cursed campsite remained a place of unspeakable horror, a dark abyss that lured the curious and the foolish, and where the hidden killer continued to torment those who dared to cross its threshold, perpetuating the terror that had plagued Whispering Pines for generations. Years turned into decades, and the cursed Whispering Pines became a forsaken place in the collective memory of the town. The legend of the hidden killer was passed down from generation to generation, a dark tale that had taken on an almost mythical quality. Parents warned their children, and local lore declared the campsite as a forbidden realm, a place where the living and the dead intertwined in an eternal dance of horror. Despite the chilling stories, time had a way of blurring the line between fact and fiction. Newcomers to the town often dismissed the warnings as mere superstition, but the locals, who knew better, could still feel the unsettling aura that clung to the forest like a curse. One autumn, a group of paranormal investigators arrived in the town, armed with cameras, ghost hunting equipment, and an unshakable belief that the stories surrounding Whispering Pines were ripe for exploration. They sought to unravel the mysteries of the hidden killer and prove once and for all whether the legend held any truth. Setting up camp on the outskirts of the forest, they began their investigation with excitement and a hint of skepticism. As night descended upon Whispering Pines, they initiated their ghost hunting equipment, recording devices, and cameras, determined to capture any evidence that might reveal the existence of the hidden killer. Hours passed, and the investigators roamed deeper into the woods, their equipment registering nothing out of the ordinary. It was easy to dismiss the tales as folklore until, suddenly, a chilling whisper reverberated through the forest. It was a sinister, mocking voice that seemed to come from all directions at once. The investigators' cameras captured shadowy figures lurking among the trees, and the cryptic symbols appeared on the ground, illuminated by an eerie, ghostly light. Panic gripped the team as their equipment malfunctioned and the temperature plummeted. Then Samuel Hargrove, the hidden killer, materialized before them, his twisted form shrouded in darkness. His laughter, tinged with madness, echoed through the night. Unlike the previous victims, the investigators were prepared for the supernatural, but it offered little solace as Samuel's traps ensnared them one by one. Desperate and terrified, the investigators fought to escape the labyrinthine tunnels and evade their relentless pursuer. But Samuel Hargrove's mastery of the forest and his malevolent cunning proved to be insurmountable. Each confrontation was more horrifying than the last, and the forest bore witness to their futile struggles. As the first glimmer of dawn broke over Whispering Pines, the once confident paranormal investigators were reduced to battered and broken souls, their quest for truth ending in unspeakable terror. Samuel Hargrove had once again claimed fresh victims, reaffirming the darkest legend of the hidden killer. Whispering Pines remained a cursed place, a nightmarish realm where the past and the present merged in a ceaseless cycle of horror. The town continued to mourn the lost souls who ventured into the forbidden forest, forever marked by the legacy of Samuel Hargrove, the hidden killer who refused to die, and the terror that lurked within the heart of Whispering Pines. If you enjoyed this story, click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell to be notified of our newest stories.